My name is Rich White, and I am the president of the board. And I just wanted to welcome everybody to the update with our county executive. We are so happy to have him as part of our program here to give us an update and progress of where the county is. And so I will then turn it over to Gary. So, I guess first thing I want to do is just thank our partners, obviously the Boeing Company, who I happen to work for, Herald Media and Kaiser Permanente. Thank you very much for sponsoring this event. The support couldn't be done without you. Our signature sponsors are also Classic Country Radio, KRKO, Comcast, Community Transit, Tulalip, Port of Everett, and Linwood Convention Center. I'll turn it over to Gary at this point in time so he can introduce the county executive. Thank you.
All right. Can you all hear me well here? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary Clark, President and CEO of Economic Alliance Snohomish County, and I am very pleased to be here with you all today. First and foremost, I'd like to take a moment and thank all our elected officials that are joining us today and all our participants who have joined this call to support our efforts and be informed on the most up-to-date news of the county. I would ask that if you are an elected official of some sort, that you would make note of yourself and where you represent and serve in the chat. Also, we have a little bit of housekeeping here. We'd like to make sure that you continue to engage in the chat. And as a reminder, this event is being recorded. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Snohomish County Executive Dave Summers, and I would like to just highlight one of my first meetings as CEO was with Dave, and I found immediately, I could tell that he has a background that is totally untraditional for an elected official. Dave is data-driven, results-oriented, particularly as it relates to economic development work. As a biologist by training, he has a no-nonsense approach to growing and diversifying our economy. Dave is in his second term as executive and has been leading Snohomish County's response to the pandemic. He is now guiding recovery efforts to ensure Snohomish County is more resilient and prepared to take on challenges of today and tomorrow. Without further ado, take it away, Dave.
Well, thank you, Gary, and thank you everybody for joining us today. It's great to see you all. And before I really dive into the update, I just wanted to say how really heartbroken I am by the racially driven murders in Buffalo and the hate-based violence in Texas and California. And it's important that we talk about this and acknowledge it. We're really living through an epidemic of mass violence because we've allowed hate to flourish. And while we mourn the dead and grieve for the communities that are directly impacted, we also have to acknowledge the harsh reality that the tragedy was preventable. White supremacy and other forms of extremism exist. Extremist actions are known, and yet very little accountability is really applied when there's fomented hate speech, when people intimidate other people because of the color of their skin, and when there are horrendous acts of violence committed. So as a community, a county, we must not permit or excuse racist violence. And we really together must take meaningful action, including fighting against all forms of racism. So just please take a moment to commit to doing all you can and all we can do together in our neighborhoods and organizations to really stamp out racist hate. We can't allow it to continue, and really too much is at stake. So I'm really grateful to the Economic Alliance that has partnered with the county and others to launch a diversity, equity, and inclusion effort called Snow Code. It provides a resource for businesses in Snohomish County really to come together and make commitments to end the hate. It's really efforts like this across the country that will help us beat back the forces of hate. So thank you for allowing me to say those few words. I thought it was important. So diving into the county update, first I really wanted to thank you, Gary, and the whole Economic Alliance team for everything you do to support our businesses, workers, and really support regional vitality. I also need to thank our county council, tribes, our mayors, city council members, businesses, all my fellow elected officials, nonprofit leaders, private businesses, and in particular, all those who've worked with us over the last few years to reduce death and sickness in our community and help us thrive. So thanks to you all. And a special shout out to Snohomish County's hardworking employees. Day and night, they've been serving the public and doing the important work of the county. So thank you to all our folks at Snohomish County. So the pandemic really has been one of those all hands on deck events, as you all know, where everyone played an important role, from the private sector to nonprofits and our governmental partners. And I really appreciate more than ever what a special place Snohomish County is. I'm so proud of our county and how we look out for each other in good times and bad. So I kind of chuckled when I saw the date for this update, May 18th. Got a little story. You know, I like stories. So just wanted to tell you about a hike I took a number of years ago. So 42 years ago today, I was camping along Creek in the Yakima River Canyon with my wife, Elaine, and a few friends. We had been on a multi-day uneventful hiking trip along the Yakima Ridge Trail. It was really quiet and beautiful views and good company. It's really spectacular place along the Yakima Canyon. On the morning of May 18th, we were packing up and I walked down the creek to take a last look, as all good fisheries biologists do. As I was coming back to camp, I was walking past the tent with some of our friends and started to hear rain hit the leaves around the canyon there, around our campground. And inside the tent, Kathleen was saying, Keith, that was her husband, Keith, it's raining outside. Keith was outside. He said, Kathleen, I'm standing outside. It's not raining. Keith, it's raining outside. I can hear it. Kathleen, I'm standing outside. It's not raining. I looked up and I got grit in my eyes. And so we, some fishermen that had been down the creek came kind of scooting up quickly. And I asked if it was a dust storm, and they thought they didn't know, but maybe the mountain had blown. So we packed up the car, and within minutes, just a thick, dirty rain began to just fall, and it was pitch black within just a couple of minutes. So we jumped in the cars, slowly caravaned out the valley, just feet from each other, so we could just see the car tail lights in front of us, and wound our way out the dirt roads out of the Yakima Canyon towards Ellensburg. And it was really only we got to Ellensburg that we learned, yes, the Mount St. Helens had erupted that morning, about 90 miles away, in one of the most cataclysmic events to hit the Pacific Northwest in a long time. We were directly downstream of the mountain in the plume. So we really picked a great place to go hiking and camping. But as a trained biologist, I know that natural processes are a cycle of birth, life, and death. And when there are major traumas in an ecosystem, like a volcanic eruption or a global pandemic, it really opens up an opportunity for growth and change. And you know, I've talked about this before, but like the area around Mount St. Helens, we as a county will grow back strong and revitalized and really take advantage of the opportunities newly open to us. We will never be the same as before. Things will never be the same, but we can and will be stronger and more resilient. Like the forests and trees that adapt to fires, we will adapt and be better prepared for whatever the future throws at us. And that's my goal and my commitment to all of you. So yes, we're in the midst of a moment of change and growth, but because of that, I'm very optimistic about where we are as a county and where we are going. Today, I'd like to talk about 6 important issues: the pandemic and our recovery, the housing crisis, fentanyl and opioids, economic development, environmental sustainability, and public safety. And I'll just touch on them briefly, but they're important issues in our county today. Here are the facts. From 2020 until today, there have been at least 140,000 Snohomish County residents who have gotten COVID, and we have lost over 1 million people in the United States and over 1,100 deaths here in Snohomish County from COVID. This level of sickness and death really represents significant trauma to our lives and our communities, and we need to recognize that. But while our community has been through a lot, we are resilient. Our broader economy has bounced back, and as of March this year, our unemployment rate is at 2.9%. That's a full 17 points lower than March of 2020, when we had almost 20% unemployment. Hard to believe, 2 years ago, 20% unemployment. But unemployment numbers don't really tell the whole story. Our entire region is experiencing an unprecedented housing crisis that is impacting everyone, from homeowners trying to upgrade to people trying to buy a house for the first time, and those who are living without shelter. So back in 2019, I helped launch the Housing Affordability Regional Task Force to bring leaders and experts together to work on plans to provide more housing across the entire county. That was pre-pandemic, and it's only gotten worse. As you know, it isn't a simple issue, since it's very expensive to build housing, and many types of housing are not provided by the market. However, the core of the crisis is quite simple. We simply don't have enough housing. So we've taken a number of steps to do what we can to ease the crisis. First, we took the step of looking at our regulations that are standing in the way of the private sector building more houses, and urging towns, cities, and county to see which ones might be eased to ease restrictions and allow more building easier and more inexpensively. Second, the county council passed new zoning regulations which allow more accessory dwelling units, giving folks an opportunity to create more housing options across the county. I know when I first started working, I lived in an accessory dwelling unit up outside of Granite Falls, and it was affordable and what was available. So I look forward to that in the future, not for myself, but for others. Third, I proposed and the county council passed a relatively small increase on the sales tax. It totals 1 cent on a $10 purchase to give us resources needed to increase our stock of affordable housing in particular that the market will not produce on its own accord. And I really believe that we should only raise taxes when there's a significant and widespread problem we need to address. Our housing crisis is one such situation, and you don't need to look very far to see the negative consequences of exploding housing costs, from homelessness to people having to move much farther away from our job centers, or neighbors struggling to pay the rent. So while these steps we've taken will help, we really need a much more significant investment from the state or federal governments if we hope to ease the overwhelming burden on our residents. The current skyrocketing costs of housing makes for a really unsustainable situation for many families, and the impacts are significant for people across the economic spectrum. This is one of the most pressing issues of our time, and if we don't work together on solutions, the consequences will be devastating for the livability of our community. The housing crisis isn't the only challenge we're facing. 2 weeks ago, I met with the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to discuss the flood of fentanyl into the county. This flood comes on the heels of Big Pharma pouring prescription opioids into our communities and the entire region. Fentanyl is a really wicked, deadly drug, and the way it is being manufactured into street pills is particularly menacing. We need to have an all-of-government approach to opioids. Since we established the Multi-Agency Coordination, or MAC group, to coordinate our response to the opioid epidemic, we have been able to bring every asset to bear on the problem of opioids, from law enforcement working on the supply side to human services and the health district on the demand side. We're really taking a coordinated and unified approach. We're going to continue to look at every tool possible to stem the flow of fentanyl into Snohomish County, and also help those who have become addicted to opioids or are at risk of overdose. We cannot just wish this problem away, because far too many people are dying in our community. Our lawsuits against those who are responsible for flooding our community with opioid pills is one way for us to recoup some of the costs for the addiction crisis. As I mentioned earlier, our unemployment rate is at strikingly low levels now. That's a good thing, of course. However, one of the reasons so many companies come to Snohomish County is that we have one of the best trained and educated workforces in the country. So a major focus for Snohomish County over the past few years has been building the gold standard workforce development system and really upgrading and modernizing our workforce development system. I really appreciate all the really hard work and investments our partners have made to ensure companies continuing to move to Snohomish County and take advantage of the best manufacturing and high-tech opportunities in the world. So I'm proud of our economic development work across the board. We've had some very innovative aerospace companies move to Snohomish County recently. Even during the global pandemic, companies have continued to grow and relocate here. It's pretty exciting to think, once again, the next chapter of aviation history is being written right here. We will soon have commercial planes flying across our skies that use renewable resources. And that's really great news on multiple fronts. And we're going to continue to do all we can to support these companies, both large and small, that already call Snohomish County home. And we'll also be very aggressive about recruiting new companies to take advantage of our world-class assets. I'm also really thrilled that more scheduled flights are coming back to Painfield. We expect Painfield to be back to its full complement of 24 flights by the end of June, and I couldn't be happier. With the full recovery of the travel industry expected in the next 2 years, we're going to continue to support our partners at Painfield to ensure that they have what they need to succeed. We know that the people of Snohomish County are really our greatest assets. However, there are too many places across the county, but in particular our rural areas that don't have broadband internet access. So these internet deserts really hold back our economy, affect the safety of families and the education of our future workforce. Internet access is no longer a luxury. It really is an essential part of life in 2022, so into the future. We were thrilled, absolutely, to get a major grant from the Washington State Broadband Office to connect thousands of homes and businesses to broadband along the SR 530 corridor. This will be a really significant boost to all those communities between Arlington and Darrington, but it also means we will all benefit from having a closer connection to this vital part of our county and region. So toward the end of last year, we established our Office of Recovery and Resilience to help lead the county back to full recovery. While our economy is doing much better today in general, there are still those who are struggling from the impacts of COVID-19. We're really grateful that the federal government has provided funding for much of our recovery and resilience efforts. And last May, we received $80 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. And this month, we'll receive our second tranche of $80 million for a total of $160 million. Working with the county council, we are investing these federal dollars in community-directed programs that will ensure a wide-ranging and equitable recovery and really build on our resilience. So last month, we announced our new recovery and resilience programs. We're going to, as just an example, we were going to invest $5 million to support economic recovery of our small businesses, entrepreneurs, and workers by expanding our tourism promotion efforts and creating the Small Business Innovation Assistance Program. Our goal is to help small business owners and entrepreneurs problem solve and innovate so they can grow their businesses, build resiliency, and thrive. Our tourism economy is vital for many of our rural areas, and we hope to see visitor numbers rebound while also keeping our tourism efforts sustainable. We know that COVID-19 impacted almost everyone in some way, and that's why our pandemic recovery has to impact everyone as well. My office has been holding discussions with community leaders, talking directly with stakeholders, elected officials, residents, and businesses to learn how we can best provide support really for an equitable and quick recovery. The needs of our community are really vast and diverse, but so is the creativity and desire to solve the tough challenges ahead of us. So in the coming months, I'll work with the County Council to make significant new investments in key areas like workforce development, housing, and childcare. And I just thank you for all the partnerships in the county with our cities and tribes and nonprofits and businesses. It's just been a great effort, again, continuing to pull together. So one area that one area we're aware that needs significant attention is ensuring our recovery, like all our work, is really equity. We know that the pandemic impacted communities differently. Some have come through just fine, while others are still struggling for just many different reasons. We have to acknowledge and address those reasons and barriers to make sure we are serving everyone in our county equitably. And we have a commitment to ensuring that Snohomish County government looks like the communities we serve and that we are reducing any disparities. This is not quick work, it's not fast work, but something we're going to continue to pursue. So speaking of long-term projects, I also want to give an update on our many projects to help us ensure this most beautiful corner of the world stays beautiful. Our way of life really depends on clean air, water, and land, and we would not have the quality of life if salmon and orca cannot live in our waters. So our environment is critically important to both our current quality of life and our future. So over the last few years, we've been steadily making progress to restore important habitats for salmon and other fish, including the incredible work done at Smith and Spencer Islands. We have the largest connected cohesive estuarine restoration projects in the state. It's very exciting. It's been a long-term investment. But one of the most exciting projects right now is at Meadowdale Beach Park, where we're opening up the estuary, and we've partnered with Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, the state, and others to really repair important fish habitat down there and also provide for public safety. It's really a kind of multi-generational investment that is going to improve the park for our residents, for wildlife, and for our environment. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the progress we make this summer. So really exciting project. Finally, last topic, I want to reiterate the high priority we place on public safety and mention a couple of significant investments we made in the last year. We use a portion of our federal funding to invest in our law and justice agencies. These investments will allow our courts and prosecuting attorney to address a case backlog that had grown exceptionally large during the COVID-19 shutdowns. This is going to allow us to provide more access more quickly to our justice system. So we made these really historic investments to ensure our law and justice infrastructure, including our sheriff's office, have the resources they need to keep our communities as safe as possible. The second investment I wanted to mention is body-worn cameras for deputies and rangers. We expect the first phase of the body cams will be on the streets in August. And this change, we've been working very closely with the sheriff's office on this change, really allow for more transparency and trust between our law enforcement officers and the public. And we'll really work to protect both our law enforcement officers and the public. So excited about that project. And thanks for the partnership with the sheriff and the sheriff's office. I am really grateful for the work of everyone in our law enforcement justice system, and looking forward to continuing to partner with them in the future. We know that a strong, transparent, equitable law and justice system is really essential for our quality of life here in Snohomish County. And it's really one of the best ways to prevent hate crimes and other acts of bigotry. And it's really necessary to hold people accountable for their crimes and protect our quality of life here in Snohomish County. So that kind of wraps up the topics I wanted to hit. But before I hand it back to Gary, I just wanted to show you a short video we prepared for today. So if whoever rolls video now, that'd be great. I think we lost the sound here. Is anybody else getting sound? When you share the video, you've got to, or when you share your screen, you have to hit share sound. So you have to go exit. No, you have to exit out and hit share sound when you.
Thanks for all your help. Okay.
Let's see if we can get this volume to work. Give me 1 second. Let me know if you can hear this.
Nothing yet.
And Ed, I think you have to stop sharing your screen. And then when you hit share screen, just before you hit that, there's a share audio tab. And then you share screen.
It's been a rough couple of years with COVID, but I am absolutely more optimistic about Snohomish County than I've ever been. As a biologist, I know when there's a big upset and a big disturbance, it creates opportunities. And I see nothing but amazing opportunities and that energy that really did carry through the pandemic. We rebounded pretty quickly. Businesses relocating here, people moving here, remote teleworking opportunities. We're a great community to live in, and now you can kind of live and work at the same place. We're diverse in the businesses that are here, everything from aerospace to agriculture and forestry, health sciences, life sciences, a lot of very skilled workers, a lot of highly trained workers, a lot of businesses, high quality jobs here. We had businesses relocating here during the pandemic, and it's because of our workforce. It's because of our history. We manufacture things here, and that creates a talent pool that's available. Unfortunately, that pool's not big enough now. We've got way more demand than we need, but I think that really helped make us resilient. We want to make sure we keep all those qualities that make Snohomish County just a great place to live. The beauty of it, the diversity of Snohomish County. I want to see agriculture here in 50 years growing and thriving and diversifying. Forestry, recreation, manufacturing, all those things that we have now, but even stronger. We recognize that if we work together and combine our resources, we're much stronger and better able to really tackle the issues in front of us. And we took that right into the pandemic, really working across agencies, a network that was robust, resilient, and able to really respond to it. So we know how to do that here. We know how to collaborate, cooperate, and that makes me really optimistic. I just really am so grateful and want to thank all our partners. I want to thank all the county council for being supportive and working with my offices through the pandemic. Our cities and towns have been fantastic partners. Public health agency has been fantastic. Our tribal partners here in Snohomish County also just so supportive and really willing to come together and work together in ways that are just amazing and fantastic. So I just want to thank everyone for their partnership and let them know that we're here for them too, and this is key to our future together.
Gary, I'll throw it to you.
All right, thank you, Dave. Executive Summers, that was an amazing update. Appreciate your context and the value of your words as we move forward. I do have some Q&A items here, and we want to get some answers from you, Executive Summers. And so as someone mentioned in the comment, you're seeing an amazing video. So if we can share that link as well so everyone has access to it, it would be great. Executive Summers. So even with the global pandemic, we continue to read about companies moving to Snohomish County. Why is that? What are the assets we have that are so attractive?
Sure. Well, yes, even through the pandemic, we were approached by companies that either wanted to relocate here or start up here or grow here. And I think, you know, we've talked about many of these things. It's a beautiful place to live. It's we have an amazing history of manufacturing, building things, and along with that, a really skilled workforce. And so I think people and companies see a future here. We also have opportunities I think you're all familiar with the Cascade Industrial Center up between Arlington and Marysville. Land available around an airport to build and grow. And that's very attractive. Everett and the Port of Everett, very attractive places to do business and opportunities to grow and relocate. Painfield, I mean, it just goes on and on. Recently, I was at a meeting and was told that our life sciences businesses in South County and our corridor down there is growing and growing up to the north, and those companies are thriving, and they see Snohomish County as just a great place to live and do business. So we're really blessed on a number of fronts with a number of assets, our people being a huge part of that, our workers, the quality of life here, and the opportunity we have. And I think, frankly, I've spoke of collaboration and working together. I think the atmosphere here is good and attractive to people. We also are making investments for the future. I mentioned broadband, and we know connectivity is huge, and we're really improving on that. So it's Snohomish County just has so many wonderful attributes to it that make it attractive. And so right through the pandemic, when other places were kind of imploding, we were still growing. So.
Thank you, Executive Summers. So speaking of the pandemic, we know you don't have a crystal ball and you're not Nostradamus. However, how long will we be dealing with COVID-19 in the Snohomish County community?
Yeah, I think COVID of some form is here to stay. I'm not a doctor or a researcher. We're, experiencing another wave right now, but the good news is that it's less virulent, and it's still a threat to certain folks with either underlying conditions or just susceptible. So we need to be careful. But I think personally, everything I know about is we're likely to see this in our future, and just something to be cautious of. But as I mentioned earlier, I think we have learned from this, and I think going into the pandemic, I don't know about you guys, but the first time I went into a grocery store, I had to wear a mask. It felt very weird and very strange, and it no longer feels strange and funny. And I've traveled in places around the world where it's, you commonly see in the public people wearing masks. And I think we're going to be better able to deal with what comes before us or comes to us in the future. And the partnerships we've built, the county working with our health district and our partners, our nonprofits, our businesses, private healthcare industry, we've put together some networks and built relationships that will serve us well in the future. And so I'm optimistic, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to see less impact to people and people's lives and businesses in the future.
Executive Summers, thank you. We realize that you have been an amazing ambassador for Snohomish County, the entire community, all parts of it. And you did mention a little bit about travel. I know one of the most amazing places that you like is Painfield. Could you tell us what you think the travel industry will do as far as full recovery? What are your thoughts on full recovery from the travel industry?
Well, I know out at Painfield that we're expecting Alaska has essentially filled in the space there, and it was planning on being back at full capacity by this summer. I just flew through there this last week, and it was pretty busy. For Painfield, there was a huge lineup at TSA. It took me about 45 seconds to get through TSA. Wonderful experience, but we're going to continue to see the travel industry return. I mentioned tourism during my talk. An interesting thing I've watched over the years is tourism has become an essential part of our agricultural economy. Agritourism is huge, and we see a lot of really a thriving agriculture community here in Snohomish County, and they've merged tourism into an important part of their business plan. So I think that's going to continue. You know, it's whether it's wedding facilities, pumpkin patches, corn mazes, that kind of thing. It's become part of a farm model. We're also working on some projects to really make locally grown food more accessible to the public. Here we know that during the pandemic, we put together a program, Nourishing Neighborhoods, to bring local produce and agriculture to communities around the county that really were kind of food deserts and didn't have access to good food. And we're going to build on that and really strengthen the local connection and local growth. And so I'm very excited about agriculture here in Snohomish County, along with tourism. I think tourism is going to be a big part of helping to recover a lot of the small businesses, restaurants, and other Main Street type of businesses that rely on the flow of people. And that's we're seeing a rebound now and people getting out and about. And so I think it's going to be a pretty good year and years in front of us.
Thank you, Executive Summers. One final question that I have. We have pretty much seen quite a few companies locating here who are working on electric powered planes. So do you think a wave of the future that this might be, or could we also see wide body jets powered by renewable resources? What are your thoughts?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that. But I think electric vehicles and alternative fuel sources are in our future. I know a number of years ago that Boeing started looking at and testing successfully the use of biofuels in aircraft. And so I think in the future, we're going to see more of that. Electrical regional commuter aircraft are being designed and built right here in Snohomish County, and that is certainly in our future. So I think you'll see more initially the shorter range regional type of aircraft. And I think we are going to have to turn to alternative fuel sources. And I know even we have a company here in Snohomish County working on fusion energy, and it's not probably an aircraft issue, but it is a way of generating electricity that can be used. There's hydrogen technology too, which also requires electricity to create the hydrogen. And if you can create that hydrogen with a clean energy source like hydroelectric or fusion, it's really a wonderful way to get at the carbon emissions issue, carbon issue. So we're fortunate for that. And those technologies are being developed and built right here in Snohomish County. And again, because of our workforce and our history and experience actually building things and just the incredible talent pool we have here.
Executive Summers, we have some additional time for questions from those who are participating today. One question was tied to Payne Field and the use of the spaces that were not utilized now by United. Do we think that there's an opportunity for Alaska Airlines to use that vacated space?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is the plan for Alaska to really expand. When the airport was built and the process we went through, our capacity at this point is 24 flights a day. Again, those will be filled by Alaska Airlines, as far as I know. We are also going through a master planning process for Payne Field. My view of the future is we're going to continue to make sure that we're supporting really supporting the businesses that are located there, manufacturing of all sizes. It's a general aviation airport too, that's important for private operators, and that's a key part of it. And the commercial services, I think we need to be really mindful that we keep that balance. The gross economic impact and benefit of Payne Field is, and all the businesses around it prior to the pandemic were 3 times the size of the economic benefits of SeaTac, about $60 million a year versus 20 million for SeaTac. And everybody thinks of SeaTac as the big airport. Painfield is a much richer place because of the things I mentioned, the manufacturing, the companies located around it, general aviation, and now the commercial air. So we've got to keep that balance as we plan for the future there. But yes, Alaska will be able to use the capacity there.
Thank you, Executive Summers. We have a question in the chat here, and I'll just keep flowing with these. Shelley says she's hearing everywhere that not enough applicants for the job market demands. Is this from real growth or pre-pandemic levels? And then she has a follow-up question. Also, are there programs available with the county's 160 million ARPA funds to help small businesses attract applicants from higher level sources, such as headhunters? We all know that that can be expensive for small businesses. So
we are just in the process of planning that, exactly how we're going to use the second tranche of $80 million. The first was really, we were still kind of caught in the COVID wave. So there was some of that used for just responding to the pandemic. But we've been meeting over the last several weeks and months with our cities. Some of them also received federal dollars to coordinate. But if you have ideas, specific ideas, reach out to my office and we'll get you in touch with our Office of Recovery and Resiliency so we can really take those ideas in. At the end of the day, I'll be putting proposals forward to the county council, and the county council is the final determinant of how we spend our dollars. But small business support is very important to us. We know the workforce issues are across the board. I haven't heard of any business that isn't having problems locating people and talent. So we're really focusing on both entering people in, helping people get the skills they need, but also training to cross over. A lot of people through the pandemic decided they want to do something a little different or move to something else. And so we understand that transition, and helping people in that transition is important to workforce. So we're going to continue to really do all we can to increase that labor supply, but also the talent, the level of talent that we have here. So if you have ideas, contact us. We'll get you in touch with ORR and get you in the hopper.
thank you, Executive Summers. Another question about the pandemic. With COVID cases on the rise, do you see more public testing sites opening back up again?
I don't foresee that. Those public sites are expensive logistically. There's a lot behind it. You have no idea the planning it takes to, first of all, get the facility, get the workers, staff them. So I think we're at a level now where we're going to be really depending on the more private testing, both individuals and through our healthcare companies. So I don't see, unless there's another major surge of a very serious disease, I don't see us reopening the public testing sites. During the peaks, they were pretty busy, and then as the waves tailored off, they were really not very busy. And so it's very hard to maintain large facilities like that when you just don't have much flow through. It's not really very efficient.
Thank you, Executive Summers. Another question tied to new construction in the county. So new construction in the upcoming year, county funded or otherwise, increasing or decreasing? What are you hearing and seeing from your team?
Well, I think there's it's increasing, but we're going through a process right now to update our countywide comprehensive plan and looking for ways to do more infill. We've done a lot of planning along the future light rail line between Linwood and Everett, and making sure that we're building transit friendly and transit oriented development, which means, a mixture of everything from single family all the way up to multifamily apartments, condos, et cetera. I understand that there's been some changes in the condo laws, so we might see some more interest in those opportunities in the future. But, the pressure for housing is going to continue to grow here in the county, and I'm very much an advocate of looking how we can do that in a sustainable way, infill, redevelopment, working with our cities to accommodate growth in the future. I'm also mindful, though, we have extremely valuable rural areas that need to be protected. They are the basis of our agriculture, forestry, recreation, and so finding that balance is going to be important for the future. But I think you're going to continue to see growth here in Snohomish County.
Thank you, Executive Summers, and I'll dovetail this with Lisa's question from earlier. And I just thought you might want to touch base on this based on the comprehensive plan comment. As we keep growing, what she's seeing is noise issues coming up. And as we have businesses and homes on top of each other, in her mind, 4 a.m. Noises from garbage trucks and dump trucks and whatnot. And I think she's highlighting that these are rules that we know we have for construction and noise in certain hours. She's saying that this is 5 to 7 days a week. Can you please help in engaging who to assist in this space? And what are your thoughts on this? Is this an issue that you've heard from your constituency?
Well, I'm certainly aware of it. If you're living within a city boundary, you really need to talk with your city government. The county doesn't control that, but if you're an unincorporated county, during the pandemic, for example, we did change some rules to allow grocery trucks to deliver at all times to really make sure that we were getting food supply. But let us know where your problem is and see what we can do. It is a difficult problem. I mean, there's a couple of things, two things people really don't like. One is density and the other is sprawl. And so that's the trick of all this. But when I started working in Snohomish County, we were under 300,000 people. I think we were about 260,000, and we're now at 850. And that's kind of the nature of the beast. But we do want to make sure we're keeping our places livable. So we have not been very successful with noise ordinances in the past because they're difficult to both monitor and improve. But if there's operational things we need to consider for the future in terms of hours, please let us know and we can talk about that. We don't have any ongoing discussions about that, but I'd be interested in hearing about the nature of the issue and then putting some thought to it.
Thank you, Executive Summers. And as you all can see, he's a busy man with his phones ringing off the hook. He's got a lot of folks to engage and answer a lot of these questions directly. One final question that I have here, and then have a few closing remarks here. But Executive Summers, how will the small business recovery plans assist small businesses located affordable leases? So those who are trying to get relocated and can't find affordable leases. And I know this ties into tourism as a question from Amy Bergen.
Yeah, I think that's something we should discuss with our Office of Recovery and Resilience, because I do know the housing price crisis extends over to leases and other things. And again, I think there is a supply issue there. But we have in the past given grants to small businesses, and I think it's really important that you let us know what you're experiencing out there so that we can put some people on it to think about what we might be able to do. That the lease issue is not one I've heard, but I'd really be happy to talk to you more about it.
All right, Executive Summers, we really appreciate your update. I am thankful for you being willing to answer all of these questions as well. and just being an ambassador and light for leadership for Snohomish County. I'm going to step aside as our chairperson for Economic Alliance, and our government relations company will take it away. Rich White.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Gary. I just want to echo to Gary's thanks for Executive Summers for all of the work that he has done on our behalf as a broader business community and the community in general over the last several years. The pandemic has certainly stressed a lot of our government functions, and Dave has led those efforts very well, I think, through the pandemic. And as he well noted in the video, we hopefully are coming out of this stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for whatever we face as a community and as a region going forward. I would just like to close by thanking all of our partners and signature sponsors for this event. That includes the Boeing Company, Herald Media, Kaiser Permanente, and then our signature sponsors being Classic Country, Community Transit, KRKO, Comcast, Lumen Convention Center, the Port of Everett, and the Tulalip Tribes. Don't forget to, we've got some coffee chats coming up. There are lots of other events that will be coming up, not just over the next month, but over the next year. So please feel free to be engaged in Economic Alliance and all the different activities that we are doing. Both the employment and recruitment strategy coffee chats there on the 24th next week. And then after that, we'll do one on early childhood, how we're rethinking the workforce investment, and be on the lookout for a bunch of other stuff that'll happen during the summer and in the fall. So with that, I'll just hope everybody has a great day. Thanks once again to our County Executive Dave Summers for the wonderful presentation, and have a great day. Thanks everybody for attending.